We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello, welcome to IBD Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I have Crohn's disease. I speak from the role of a patient.
And I'm Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom, and I speak from the role of a caregiver. Before we get started on today's topic that we're going to discuss, I want to give everyone a reminder out there that take steps. We are still fundraising, and we're still looking for people to join our team, which is IBD Determined.
IBD Determined.
Like the podcast. But we would love to have, if you're local in San Diego, or if you're going to be in the area in June, beginning of June, on June 2nd, we would love to have you join our team. And there's an exciting it's a new thing that our local Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is doing. And they're going to be hosting a Take Steps kickoff. And this is going to be on April 23rd between 5 and 7:30. And it's going to be at Takeda, which is pretty cool because they do supply one of your biologics.
Yeah, that's the one that supplies my
So that would be neat to go there. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see. But if you guys join our team, you can meet us at the kickoff. If we haven't already met, we'd love to meet you and have you join us. So just a reminder, because we could use some support. Mason is number one right now for fundraisers, and hopefully someone will take over and make even more money. And, everyone keep encouraging others to raise more money. So for now, he's number one.
Equilibrium.
Yeah. Well, we were number one speaking of that, because we were number one with our team. Now we're number two. So Prometheus Laboratories, which this always happens because it's a huge
it's a huge
company. So they usually take over. And I think last year the team narrowly beat us. I'm not sure. So we say beat us, but we're all one big team.
Yeah, we're all one big team.
But I'm just trying to encourage you out there, like, hey, these are reasons you can join our team. Like,
you want us to win?
Help our team get to be number one.
Yeah.
So, and because everybody's a winner with this, because all of the funds go back to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. So
think about it like this. If you donate, you're not only helping donate to us, our team, and helping the final biologic. When other teams see our money amount go up, then they're gonna
motivates them
donate more too, because
you
want to get one-upping each other.
Right. And it's like or at least being like the top three. It's like, I can't let that happen. I'm only this far away. So
you just gotta keep donating, and then they'll keep donating, and it's a infinite little loop that occurs.
Right. And it's also tax deductible because Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is a nonprofit. So you will get a write-off. So that's always something to consider too, especially as tax time is coming up.
Yes.
So there's your reminder.
Taxes.
Right. Depending when you're listening to this, if you're just catching up to us, and it could be any time of the year, but while we're filming this, that's the time of the year. In fact, we're having a stormy spring day, which is great for Southern California.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. It's
nice and relaxing.
It's crazy. Like we don't get a lot of these. And
first day of spring break and it's raining.
Yeah.
Spring.
It'll clear up, but it's kind of a fun, it's a fun
day
for us. Yeah. So going back to last week's episode, we broke down the IBD day presentation
at Rady's.
We let you all know we were going to take them a step further and really go into what they talked about. So today's episode,
talk about each subject separately.
Yep.
Today's episode is about diet.
Yep. And we think, because we've already done, we've done an episode on diets, but I think that this is ongoing, and you can continue to do many of these, because there really is no right or wrong answer when it comes to your diet with this. And it's
like Crohn's, it's just like different for everyone.
It is. And maybe what we've talked about previously, something new has changed. And so I think it's important to keep returning to this. And especially because this was a dietitian who specializes in IBD, I think this information could be helpful. But at the same time, I want to remind everybody that if you're going to change anything with your diet,
let know your doctor that you're going to be doing that.
Yes.
Your doctor, your nurse, your dietitian.
Right.
Anyone in the medical team.
Run it by them first, because they're going to know your situation way more than we will, way more than our dietitian.
They have the blood samples. They know the cells. They know everything.
And they know your symptoms, they know where you're at, and it's very important. And so the helpful thing with this one is that a dietitian did present this, and this is kind of like a large scale view, like a step back. It's not specific to Mason.
Yeah.
It's not specific to anybody.
It's specific to kind of like anyone with the disease.
Right. So that's why we thought this was really important to share. There's some things that we noticed that were very different for us, like for Mason, some things didn't apply. So I'm just guessing some of you listening, you're going to maybe relate to some of this,
and
or
you're going to be like, oh, I don't.
Some of it not.
I don't relate to that. I don't know what
Nope.
that is.
So let's jump into it because it's kind of a heavy episode. Yes. We are going to go into as much detail as the dietitian went into. This episode isn't going to go into too many resources, go into too much, but if there's something you heard us talking about you'd like us to discuss further, comment, message, let us know how we can help you guys out. So we're more than happy to do that. But we have a lot of information to cover. So we're just going to cover basically what she did. So the first slide she pulled up was diets for flares and day-to-day diets for when you're not in a flare. So these are the things she covered first. So during a flare.
Yes, during a flare, specifically during a flare. Yeah, these are flare diets. These aren't diets you just have normally.
Right. This is what they recommend if you're in a flare. And again,
it's different for everyone.
We differ for everyone. This is just what the dietitian discussed. Yeah. So I just want to be very clear.
Yeah. So low fiber starches and grains like rice noodles, peeled potatoes. I don't really like potatoes, but if you like potatoes,
you like rice.
Oh yes, I did really like rice. White rice is my favorite.
Potatoes would have been great, but you didn't.
Vegetables without skins because skins are harder to digest. This is peeled cucumbers and peeled carrots.
Yeah.
Things like that.
So you have your vegetables without skins and then
fruit without skins. So like bananas, peeled apples, avocados, melons, maybe peeled plum. I love plums.
Yeah, and we used to do strawberries.
Yeah, peeled strawberries.
We would cut the outside it's like a little bit of work, but it's worth it because you get to still enjoy these things.
Just one little strawberry,
right?
Peel all that off, and then you got to peel more because you still want more.
Right. And so what else during a flare?
You should have lean proteins such as chicken breast without skin.
That's what we get. Ours is skinless. Yeah.
Costco.
Yep. Shout out to Costco.
Yes. And then white fish, such as I think like halibut, maybe something like that. Not salmon. Salmon is pink.
It is. Yeah, but you like salmon.
I like salmon a lot, but
so we would make salmon. Yeah, so that's fine.
And then eggs. Eggs are also a really good one because there's so many different ways you can make it. Poached, hard-boiled, scrambled, all those different ways you can put it on a sandwich or something if you can.
And that's actually what you went back on after your liquid diets and after TPN. One of the things you got to have was eggs.
Eggs. It is so funny. Sometimes there'd be like a little bit more, and I'm like, and then there'd be a little bit less. I'm like, they didn't put enough.
Yeah, you get really
mad. It was like the correct serving. It was the correct serving, and when it was like, no.
There was a mix-up in the kitchen.
Yeah.
At the hospital a couple times.
But I mean, that just goes to show that it was good. They were
right,
eggs.
And it was going well for you. So let's see what else. We have drink water.
That's very important.
I mean, for everybody listening. I mean,
so you see, if you're not in a flare, you don't have to drink water.
Yeah. I think it's recommended for everybody. But
if you're not in a flare, if you are in a flare, just drink water.
It's like a reminder because like for Mason, we used to actually mark how many water bottles we take, 8-ounce water bottles, refill them for how many he should have in the day, and then make sure he drank all of those because you can get dehydrated easily in a flare. And so we want to make sure. So we were very diligent about the water. Yeah. So pay attention to that. And
lactose-free milk. I think I actually talked about that last episode. So lactose-free milk.
But they said just to be safe,
during a flare, you should just have lactose-free.
Right. And we actually have that all the time.
We have that all the time. So even if you're not a flare,
we love Fairlife. Fairlife milk is great. I mean, just read the nutrition label on it and you'll see why it's really popular. So anyway, so that's
have lactose-free milk, plant-based calcium fortified milk.
Our dietitian, the same one who did this, actually wanted, because of your personal profile, they went more for the lactose-free milk. So you can see how it's different again
for everyone.
Right.
I like coconut milk. I don't know. It's not
that's good.
I love coconut milk. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Aged hard cheeses.
Right. The last one on that was yogurt, which you're not a fan of.
No, I don't like yogurt.
So
I mean, I haven't tried it in a really long time.
Right. Every time we have tried it, you're like, I still don't like it. But we'll have to try it again.
Yeah.
And one of the other items they mentioned about
whole foods without added salt.
Yeah. So whole foods, and we do a lot of cooking at home, and it's just not only is it cost effective, it's also healthy. So you can kind of control what goes in there. And I cook from scratch. And Mason's be taking a culinary class here.
It's actually the class I'm the most excited for.
Yeah, I am too.
Science.
So I'm excited to do this. So I think it's very important for everybody to have that knowledge, and you can help yourself. It'll only help benefit you in many ways. So yeah, learn to cook. That's a really helpful hint too. And so, I mean, obviously there's other things. We have a whole Flair diet booklet that we were not booklet, but a printout that she given us. It's like 3 or 4 pages. So these are just some of the things that she highlighted on her slide. The next one
is short but sweet.
Well, right. It's kind of wrapped up a little because obviously for the sake of time, but then she went to during a flare what to avoid.
Yeah.
And
what we just talked about was what you should have, and what we're talking about now is avoiding.
Right. And these are recommendations, but again, the important thing is you're eating. And if they're not hurting you, if they're not causing issues.
Like if you know it doesn't hurt you, or if it doesn't cause anything, if you know that for sure, you can have it.
Right. Then maybe it's not something that's going to affect you. So these are, important discussions to have with your GI or your dietitian to see. But, and generally speaking, this is what she talked about. So high in soluble fiber foods, skins of fruits and vegetables, then grains, nuts, and seeds. And
also another one you should really avoid is popcorn.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's definitely.
You're at Disneyland and you're like, oh, that popcorn smells good, and then you're kind of Rosie's and I can't have it.
Right. Or if you're at the movie theater, or if you're at home and someone's making popcorn.
Okay, goldfish is there for you.
It's just, it's just a safety thing. Kind of, we just, you get
better safe than sorry.
Because you can get inflammation when it's in your intestines or in your GI tract. You can get pockets that these things can go into, and you can have problems. So anyway, there's other reasons, but like the one thing we're always going to advise from the dietitian though is that digestion starts with your mouth. So
chew well.
So if you're going to have some peanuts, if you did want to have something like that, this is just good advice for any of you. So chew it very well, and that's a huge help for your digestive system. So get started and chew things very carefully. Greasy foods. You'll know things that work for you, but these are just in general. Greasy food is not going to be great for anybody. Sugary foods, avoid desserts like candy, juice, soda, and pastries. Something to avoid.
Lactose,
which we just talked about.
We just talked about that.
Right. So that's reasons why you would avoid that if you're in a flare. Also something to avoid, added salt, like salty foods, and especially while on steroids. And I didn't know this. And I heard somebody else say that in the crowd. They were like, what? I didn't know that. And so, I mean, I think a lot of us just thought you're just supposed to avoid them on the flare, but I guess on steroids. So if you're taking steroids, just something good to know.
Don't have them because you're in a flare, and the steroids are like, well, you're never having them.
I didn't get to ask why, but that's what.
Maybe there's some, you can find it maybe on Google or something like that.
And then she moved on to day to day when you're not in a flare. This is a good reminder for anybody, but especially if you have IBD. And so, of course, no one's going to be perfect.
No.
But these are some suggestions that she made. Balanced diet with foods from each food group at each meal.
Yes. Like noodles and salad with chicken, something like that. What could we do with that? We could put broccoli on the noodles. There we go.
Well, you love asparagus.
Yes, asparagus.
You love Brussels sprouts.
Oh yeah, Brussels sprouts.
Cauliflower. Like luckily we have some, and we do a lot of salad here too. So anyway, we can get in the extra. We do. So then choose a variety of colorful fruits and vegetables. This one you like.
I like this. Eat fish often, 3 times a week if able.
Right. So Mason
like fish.
Loves fish. It's because you want omega-3 rich foods, which is
salmon, mackerel, herring,
walnut. And then in other stuff
is walnuts, flax, hemp, chia seeds. And careful with the seeds. So
these are for day to day when you're not in a flare. These are good ways to get omega-3s. However, it's just important for you to talk with your doctor and know if seeds are recommended for your condition.
And if they are allowed, just make sure you chew well.
Right. Choose whole foods prepared from scratch at home. Yep. Choose unsaturated fat from olive oil, canola oil, or avocados, those are all the oils that we use in our house if we do use oil. And then these are things to limit.
Just limit, yeah.
And again,
don't avoid them, but don't eat too much.
Right. So the one they have is red meat. I'm sure some people out there, this is going to vary for you.
Yeah,
this is,
different
this is what her presentation covered. Limit processed meats. Limit saturated fats like fat from meat, poultry, skin, butter, palm oil, or coconut oil. These are all just good advice. Limit trans fat. Avoid highly processed foods containing carrageenan, carboxymethylcellulose, and polysorbate 80.
Congratulations pronouncing all those because I could
don't
not.
even.
Souls.
She'll let you do that, huh?
This is the reason I don't pronounce things.
Right. He gets kind of quiet when we get to certain parts. He's like, I'll let her do it.
You should just
don't know if I said anything.
It'd be
right.
really fun if you're able to put that word on screen and have the viewers
right.
try to pronounce
like, go
that.
ahead, guys,
Pronounce
read that
this
quickly.
word.
Yeah. But I don't know if I pronounced all of them right. And I certainly didn't Google them to get all the information for you guys. You should look into it, see what you're eating, just give yourself that knowledge, check out what you normally eat and see what you can find.
Reduce intake of processed foods containing titanium oxide and sulfides.
Yes. So titanium
don't you love
dioxide and
titanium
sulfides.
dioxide and sulfides?
Yeah.
Don't you just love it when you're eating food and there's a chunk of titanium metal
dioxide, right?
in your chicken?
Yeah.
I'm just, oh my God, there's a titanium block in my chicken.
I mean, he's joking about it, but really, look into this because you might be hearing some of these words like we are, and you're like, I don't know if I'm eating that, but check it out. Yeah. Maybe you'll be surprised and realize, hey,
because titanium oxide isn't literally just titanium. Well, right. I mean, it has titanium in the name.
Well, I mean,
it's not going to be like
we're not talking chemistry class here, but we are kind of
because chemistry a lot. So
food science is a thing, guys. Food science is a thing. So limit intake of maltodextrin containing foods and artificial sweeteners like sucralose, Splenda, or saccharin. Equal or sweeten low. So these are all things to limit. And then she kind of broke it down into recommendations specific to Crohn's. And some suggestions she had was
increase vegetables and fruits,
which we've kind of talked about. Mm-hmm. And then you proceed to decrease food containing saturated and trans fat, emulsifiers, carrageenans, artificial sweeteners,
maltodextrins,
titanium dioxide. And so kind of everything, she just kind of wrapped up again in a real quick, recommendations. And then for ulcerative colitis, her recommendations were to
increase omega-3 oils from fish and food. Mm-hmm. So like the salmon, the herring, all the fish again.
And then proceed to decrease food containing
red meat, processed meats, dairy fat, palm and coconut oil, saturated and trans fat, emulsifiers, carrageenans, artificial sweeteners, maltodextrins, and titanium dioxide. So kind of like that last part was the same thing as for Crohn's.
Right. So very similar.
I did it very horribly.
No, you did fine. You did fine. So just that's kind of how she wrapped it up. And then she moved on to trigger foods. What is a trigger food? I mean, what would you consider it? How would you define it?
I would say kind of like something that doesn't cause Crohn's. It just starts to flare. Kind of like maybe. Mm-hmm. So you have a fire and the fire's a little dying down, and then you feed it wood, and then the wood kind of helps it pick up. Mm-hmm. The fire still needs the oxygen, and obviously that's the problem that's causing Crohn's in the first place, but the food is kind of like helping to feed the flare, build it up.
Right. And so it's important for each of you to identify your own trigger foods because they vary from person to person.
It's different for everyone.
Our trigger foods, you may not find out until you are eating something. You may be doing great and think, I can eat this, and all of a sudden you react to it. So trigger foods can change. There
is something you should do though, because if you're eating multiple meals, it can take a few days for a flare to start. So just keep a little log of what you're eating, so you can say, well, if it affects me in a few days, this is probably what caused it, because I haven't eaten this, and this is the one thing that I haven't eaten in a while. It kind of, you can look back and
you can say, oh, this did give me a stomach ache that night.
Yeah.
And then I had it again here and it gave me a stomach ache again. So maybe there's so you can find correlation there. Yeah. She said to keep a record of symptoms, and we are planning something to help you guys out with this, specifically to help IBD in hopefully a new way. And so we are working on that for you all because it's so important to us.
Exciting.
And so some of the common trigger food, again, some of these do not trigger Mason. And so some of you who maybe aren't on biologics, you're trying to do diet only, This is really important. You may have a totally different experience than Mason's having. But for Mason, really,
because I'm on biologics, I'm able to eat whatever I like.
But we're still within reason.
Within
reason. But we monitor still, make sure there's no certain triggers. And because some of you out there are going to know those triggers, and it makes it really, you may have multiple triggers. Some of the common ones, she said, are
ultra-processed foods, greasy foods, high-fiber foods, corn and corn products, nuts and seeds, spicy foods, dairy products, alcohol.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone here is thinking that.
It was for pediatrics, but they're just kind of like, hey, when you guys are getting older and you're considering drinking, like these are important things to take into, and especially with your medications too, guys. Okay.
Alcohol is definitely
beyond,
not good.
So
alcohol is not good on its own, and then it's not good with medication.
Right. Combined with medication. So really important to have these discussions with your doctor to find out, what is compatible with the medications you're taking and what is recommended for the condition of your disease. Yes. So they had cute little pictures off to the side. And I want to mention, I thought it was pretty funny what we heard in the crowd with this, because they show these pictures and I'm imagining all the kids are looking at it and they're like, what? Like,
what?
That's going to make it sick. But again, this was
just recommendations.
Right. And so some of you might eat these things and not have any triggers, but some of you may read this and go, oh, yeah,
God,
everything on there.
That's dangerous.
The first thing they said was French fries, which was really funny.
Yeah, because one of the people in the back of the car was like, but I eat French fries. That's what they said.
They're like, what?
But I eat French fries too.
Yeah, it was poor kid. It's like, well, but obviously for that child, but again, these are all things we shouldn't have in excess, no matter who you are, really. We had hamburgers, shakes, donuts, beer, pizza, hot dogs, wine, and soda. So
I was having beer at a pediatrics convention.
Yeah. So again, within reason and what pertains to your lifestyle and your discussions with your doctors. So these were just something she had up there. But Mason can eat pizza and has no issues. Mason can eat hamburgers.
Yeah.
I think the idea is for most people, these could be something that could, but you'll know.
I don't have to really.
Yeah. And you'll know.
Happy I don't have those issues, but for other people, it could apply to them, and you just want to be careful.
And some of these things people really enjoy, and it's really tough. She did mention that ultra-processed foods increase the risk of an ulcerative colitis flare in particular. The next thing that she moved on to was discussing special IBD diets. And so some of the ones she mentioned that are in use, and some of you out there, I hope, some of you are going to recognize these. You might have tried these. You might be doing one right now. So some of the special IBD diets are
gluten-free, low FODMAP, Mediterranean, specific carbohydrate diet, Crohn's disease exclusion diet, dairy-free, and exclusive enteral nutrition.
Right. The Crohn's disease exclusion diet, a lot of you may hear it as the CDED, and the exclusive enteral nutrition, some of you may hear that as EEN. We also have TPN, which is total parenteral nutrition. And that is one where you were fed through a PICC line in your arm and it didn't go into your gut at all. She didn't mention that one because that's not really one you would do at home. That's more hospitalization. But these are ones that you could do
at home. There's that kind of things with the diet.
And the specific carbohydrate diet is also kind of, you might hear that as SCD diet. So if you've heard of any of these or all of them, I'm sure you're in some of the groups online and you're following these, or your doctors have given you these and you're trying them. And she only covered a couple. She mentioned the Mediterranean is a well-known kind of one of the more popular ones they've recommended for a while. And EEN, which is exclusive enteral nutrition. So we'll refer to as EEN.
EEN.
That's where you get
100% nutrition from formula.
Right.
So like no solid food, just like drinks.
Like which you remember you got to drink 9 of them in the hospital.
I had to drink 9 boosts in a hospital.
Yeah. And even when you went home, they had switched, because you were in the hospital for a long time.
2 months.
A couple months. So by the time we got home, he had switched over to the CDED diet. But so anyways, let's talk more about the EEN really quick. So that's the first line of treatment to induce remission in children and adolescents with mild to mildly active Crohn's disease. They'll still try it though if it's, some people try it in combination with biologics. I don't know how successful it is in just inducing remission without. She didn't mention that, but for our case, it was introduced with biologics for Mason and with steroids. And then next she moved on to explaining how this EEN can help to optimize nutrition status and growth. It also can increase your chances to avoid or delay steroid treatment, which again, in our case, not at all. It was used with it. So maybe someone who's very mild and parents don't want to make the jump quite yet to steroids or biologics. I just suggest follow your GI's advice and do whatever it takes to get your child healthy, and don't be afraid of things they're offering. That's a whole nother topic, but sometimes just like for Mason, the EEN didn't help.
No.
It didn't do anything. So if luckily he was on biologics at the same time, we could measure like, okay, this is working, this isn't working. The more valuable time you sometimes spend trying to find alternatives, it can get worse. So for us, they kind of threw everything at us, but EEN for Mason didn't delay steroids for him. It says also a similar, if not superior effectiveness for remission induction to steroid treatment in children. So they have had cases where EEN was more successful than steroids. And some of you out there may have experience with this. I have not personally heard of that. I don't personally know anyone, unless I do and you just haven't told me. So maybe EEN was great and we never talked about it. But this is just something she went over and mentioned. There's insufficient evidence for effectiveness of EEN in active ulcerative colitis. And so that's also very interesting because like Mason's Crohn's disease, because it can be anywhere in the GI tract. And so Mason's was in his colon, which is where ulcerative colitis is usually present. And so he had presented very strongly with the colon as well. And that could be why the EEN was not really an option for you. So even though you don't have ulcerative colitis. So again, all these things can vary. Your GI will know best.
For everyone.
EEN may help to improve bone health in children with ulcerative colitis, though, is one of the things they did mention, which I can see because you get all those vitamins and everything you might have been lacking when you're eating certain food and it's not being absorbed correctly. So that's where EEN may help. It may absorb better and get you those nutrients. So
that's good.
Which is great. So next, she explained the CDED, the Crohn's disease exclusion diet, which combines specific whole foods with partial EEN. So like examples of allowed foods.
So fresh chicken breast, eggs, bananas, peeled apples, and peeled potatoes. Those are just a few examples.
Right. And if you remember, Mason, so when they had you on the EEN, they start introducing eggs.
Yes.
Right.
The first thing they brought in was eggs.
Well, besides goldfish.
Oh yeah, besides the
goldfish. You got to sneak a few of those. I
got like a 5 a day.
The doctor, he would plead and plead like to have something. And so she was like, okay, fine. You can have 5 goldfish.
5 goldfish a day. And I'd crush them. So it felt like I had more.
Yeah. And he'd like eat them really slowly, like little like crumb by crumb. Oh my gosh, the poor kid. So they're like, yeah, you can. So you had eggs and pancakes and then the chicken.
And then it was rice.
And so we slowly started introducing those. Yeah, there were bananas too. He did do that with the EEN. So he did have the formula, like, which was at the time the boost. And we still kind of like, we're not really like, he still does drink supplemental drinks to help keep weight on.
Instant breakfast with Fairlife.
Yeah, mix the powder mixed into that. And so we still have that, but it's not as much like this. So this is something he did do, and this worked better than just EEN for him. It says there's a rapid clinical response, usually around week 3, and maintenance of remission as well is what it is helpful in. So if you're in remission, this may be helpful. So, something to consider, talk to your doctor about. And it's used with mild to moderately active Crohn's disease.
Mine was severe. No, I don't think that would have worked.
No, but they tried everything. They at least did this with the biologic, with the steroids. So it was a lot at first, and
definitely helped though.
But still good to know. So they didn't really go into the other diets because of time, but those are things you guys can look up or talk to your own dietitians or GI doctors about. She next moved on to vitamins and supplements. One of the things they mentioned was the benefits of vitamin D. And what do you take every day?
I take vitamin D.
Every day. Yes. Yeah. And so that was something that was prescribed by his GI. Vitamin D deficiency is associated with higher risk of disease activity flare. Higher serum vitamin D levels have been associated with lower risk of developing Crohn's disease, which is interesting.
How that works.
I don't know.
We're not scientists. We're not doctors.
No.
We're just 2 people in the podcast.
Right. So that might be something they've connected, obviously not solely, but something they've connected. Yeah. I think also, though, what's could be interesting is when you do develop Crohn's disease, you could be low in vitamin D because your body's not absorbing correctly. So
doesn't vitamin D help with like bone?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting when they say that the levels have been associated with lower risk of developing the higher vitamin D, but maybe when they test you guys, you're low on vitamin D because your body's not functioning correctly.
Yeah.
So hard to know what the causation is. So anyways, probably really confused everybody. Sorry, my brain sometimes just like
it's okay.
Goes in a different direction.
We need to get some scientists on that.
I need to stick to the script. And so the next thing she mentioned was that higher levels of vitamin D have been shown to be associated with less disease activity, reduced risk of surgery, and hospitalization in Crohn's disease. And now your vitamin D levels are excellent. So that's good. That's good. So for us, vitamin D, I mean, some of you out there maybe they don't want your child to have vitamin D, or adults, maybe not either. But for us, it's been great.
Yeah,
it has been really good. Good for bone strength, is what you just mentioned. Yeah. And most benefits are seen with daily supplement of at least 25 mcgs daily of vitamin D supplements. So that's what they recommend, at least on here. Yours may vary. Then, so they monitor your vitamin levels
with labs, which I get.
You've been getting every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So you'll probably start getting every 6 weeks. I think the labs will be, since we're adjusting your infusions.
That's good. But I get them with my infusions, so we don't have to go down there separately and get labs done. We just get them with the IV infusion.
Right. Sometimes we have to do extra labs and still do it. But to monitor your vitamin levels, he gets that done regularly. Because another reason is to monitor for iron deficiency, because iron deficiency is very common.
Yes.
And with iron deficiency,
fatigue.
Yeah, you might see fatigue. You're tired.
Fatigue, headaches, dizziness.
Right.
Fainting.
Right. So
something.
So they might want you to take a form of iron. And so it's important to monitor those levels. We get Mason's monitored very closely. He was anemic.
Yeah.
And so it's very important for us to continue to monitor that. And then this is
iron is not yummy.
No, he hated it. And I mean, what did we have? And so, because iron is better absorbed, not taking it with a dairy product, but taking it with
orange juice,
like something like orange juice of vitamin C. High vitamin C helps the body absorb it better. Cranberry juice. Yes. But we tried everything because cranberry juice we thought might cancel out the taste of, because even when you swallow the pills, you didn't like it.
The funny part is cranberry juice is ruined because of iron.
Right. And he used to love cranberry juice.
You might just love the flavor You might just love the flavor of iron.
Anyone who does, but maybe somebody out there listening
might be that one lucky person,
right? Which would be really cool, because good for you. That saves, you can also get iron infusions too. So,
there's also some like iron, like the ones you got.
Oh, the chewables. We had to give you some. Ones. Yeah, they were like an orange flavor.
If I'm being honest, the chewable ones, even though you're chewing it, they were for some reason a lot better than the liquid one you just
right.
The flavor was canceled out a lot more.
Right.
Because it just has like this weird dark flavor, but the metally flavor, but the liquid one just has a really weird flavor.
Because even when he used to try to swallow them, he could still. So these chewable ones, for some reason, he did the best with. Yeah. So those were just on Amazon,
and they helped pretty well. Yeah, they helped pretty much.
And if you want to find out, let us know. We'll tell you what they were. Because I don't know right now.
I don't know right now.
I don't remember.
Might be a link in the description.
Yeah. And then this fun one, this is something new that they've been using, curcumin Qingdai. Yeah. And so they call it CurQD. So CurQD is, they said.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
And so CurQD is said, they had on the slide that it's used in children with ulcerative colitis, but I do know some kids that have Crohn's disease. I believe that they have been using it. We haven't used it yet. Our doctor has mentioned it previously, but we haven't got there yet. Mason is Crohn's, but again, presented with colitis as well, pancolitis.
Yes. So it could work.
Right. So that is something, and one of the things they're noticing, they had a decreased PUCI scores. And so there's 20% noticed a decrease. A baseline of 30 went down to around 10 for their PUCI. So that's, you ideally want a 0. It can go up to, I think, in the 60s, or on our scale at least. So anytime there's a decrease in the PUCI scale, that's excellent. A decrease in calprotectin scores. So some were around 850 and they decreased to around 100, which is a huge improvement. You guys all know that calprotectin score. Everyone's always hoping to get a low one. And so it really helps you detect the inflammation.
Hopefully we get a low one.
Yeah, and you have, luckily, lately. Oh my gosh! Like I said, I told your doctor, I think there's a 0 missing.
Yeah. Are you sure? I feel like there's a 0 missing.
this is exciting. It was really cool. But again,
we're doing good.
So that's kind of the things that they're looking at with CurQD. And they're saying it's effective and safe as an additional treatment. Additional, right? So not like only. So again, this is going to be used with your biologic or whatever medication they're treating you with. So it's safe as an additional treatment to facilitate induction of response or remission for pediatric patients with mild to moderate ulcerative colitis, even after failure of biologic therapy. So if some of you are failing a lot of biologics, this may be something to incorporate into your schedule of medications. Yeah. And the last one that they mentioned before she wrapped up was coconut water.
It's very interesting.
Yes. And she mentioned that it induces clinical remission from mild to moderate ulcerative colitis while on therapy in the study they did. So as well as Crohn's, it should be helpful. But the thing that she said to make sure people understood, this was while they were on therapy. There's misunderstandings that coconut water itself
is a cure.
Like drinking it is a cure. And it's not.
No.
And so all the testing to get these numbers that the things we're about to talk to you about were done while they were also taking their treatment. They didn't change that. Yeah. So like if for Mason, it'd be like him just staying on Stellaire and Nativio and us adding coconut water. So this was not alone.
No, coconut water isn't a cure in itself. It's
right. This was in combination.
Add-on.
Combination with your therapy. And so why would coconut water was one of the questions. Why coconut water? It's an anti-inflammatory due to the presence of cytokinins, phytohormones, and vitamins. So those are present. And
yes, coconut water. Coconut water is very good.
He likes it. Some people out there are like, yuck.
Okay, here's a fun fact. The coconuts with the husk. Yes, the husk. That's what's is good for the water. But the green coconuts, the young ones, are good for the meat, not the water. The water isn't the best in them. It's the coconut skin itself.
This is his preference. So that's what he prefers. So we've tried all of that. And this is before we heard about the coconut water experiment. It was something he already liked. So
I just like to pretend I'm at Hawaii. Because we dream.
It's also antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, and antioxidant. Has all those properties in it. It has antimicrobial peptides, which can influence the gut microbiome. It's a rich source of dietary potassium, and that's been linked with inflammation. So it's fresh, non-fermented coconut water, and that will
you would want out of the young coconut,
right? Or you can buy it. They have this bottled, so you don't have to crack one open and
buy coconut water.
Yeah, I know. So you can purchase this too. It's already been done for you. It's already supposedly this did help lower the calprotectin scores, when in combination. So anyways, just something just good information for you to know. This is where she wrapped up and we moved on, but we wanted to share this with all of you and just let you guys know, kind of what our dietitian went over. And so maybe this will give you ideas what you can talk to your doctor about.
Or maybe you can suggest a certain diet that sounds like it might work for you.
Right. Look more into it. Research some things. And I think there was I don't know if I have it on here, but I'll put it. She had a recommendation for a cookbook and I will get that for you guys. I'll try to put a link to that because that was one of her favorites. And so it's an inflammatory.
I like cookbooks.
Yeah. So I'll put a link to that. And so with that, I'm going to wrap up because this was I know a lot of information. But we just want to really kind of share with you what a dietitian who specializes in IBD recommends. And what I think that was really important. I'm glad we got to hear it. And I'm thankful she took the time
to talk about
all this and go over all of this with us.
And now it's in our podcast.
It is. Lucky her. So anyways, guys, if you guys want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Team IB Determined. And you can also head over to any podcast station and listen on places like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. And
there's now YouTube podcasts.
Right, there is. And
perfect segue.
Yes.
To YouTube itself. Yes. So if you do want to watch us on YouTube, so you can watch us and hear us, go to YouTube. And if you are on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we post a video, make sure to hit that bell.
Yep. And that's basically it, guys. Keep commenting.
Yes, keep commenting.
Keep messaging us. Let us know if anything in here you think we could talk more about. And we'll be back next week to break down more from the IBD day at Rady's.
Yes.
So you guys have a great, for Mason, it's spring break. So so you guys have a good spring break. Have a great work week if you're working and great weekend, all of that. So we'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.
Bye. We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys.
We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to apply something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.